Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook.
I'm going slowly in my entrepreneurial life as well as my personal life now. And that's where the concept of the long haul leader came about. So everything is about going slower for a longer period of time, enjoying the journey, understanding that, yes, you've got to be adaptable. Yes, you've got to stay grounded, but ultimately you've got to be very healthy while you do it. Everything I do moving forward is with legacy in mind now, but business and personal. And so, these are the concepts of that long haul leadership kind of framework.
I feel very blessed to have this podcast because not only is it a great way to reach and teach you, not only is it a great way to, it's definitely helped me with public speaking and becoming a better communicator, but it is an incredible platform to connect and be friends with people. And in this case, like today, it's not only a way to connect, but it's also a way to catch up. And so we're going to be talking today with somebody who's been on the show before, Mr. Chris Ducker from chrisducker.com, founder of Upreneur, and he's got some stuff coming up that we're going to dive into because a lot of it is a result of certain things that have happened in his life and recently in the world, and some changes have had to be made. He's recently had some businesses that were sold. He's recently had to shut some things down, and there are new things that are coming out of this. And so there's some big lessons here in this particular episode. We're going to talk about health and how important that is, especially as both Chris and I are getting a little bit older, and we talk shop. So this was a great way for Chris and I to catch up. We recently were together in Nashville, Tennessee for an author's retreat. We both have books coming out pretty shortly, coming in the next year. And I know a lot of you who are listening are fans. And remember that he and I used to run events together. The One Day Business Breakthrough podcast was a thing in our one-day event. I spoke and have keynoted a couple of his events. And a lot of events have happened between the last time he was on the show and today, which we're going to dive into and talk about and unpack. And hopefully you'll pick up some lessons through this conversation today because we're not just catching up. We're learning. We always learn from each other, and we want you to be a person in the room with us when we're talking. So here we are, Chris Ducker from chrisducker.com.
You're listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, a proud member of the Entrepreneur Podcast Network, a show that's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He tries to hit 160 grams of protein a day for his diet, Pat Flynn.
Chris, welcome back to the show, man. How are you?
It's good to be here, brother.
What is it, your 6th, 7th, 8th time on the show? I don't even know.
I've been back a while. You keep bringing me back, so clearly I'm doing something right.
Yeah, and clearly you keep bringing different kinds of value, and we have a lot of fun new things to offer to the audience today. A lot of people who have listened to the show know you, obviously, and you knows that you're one of my best friends, but hasn't heard about your business in a while. tell me a little bit about what you got going on in business and life now. Just a quick update before we get into some meaty stuff.
Yeah. So we sold the call center facility that we had in the Philippines, almost 400 employees. We sold that last year. So that was cool.
How long do you have that for?
16 years, man.
16 years and you sold it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did that feel like a relief? Was that exciting? Was it bittersweet?
I think it was, bittersweet is probably the right way to describe it. It was sweet to know that after 16 years of building a business quite literally from the ground up, like bootstrapping all the way, I never borrowed any money, never owed any money. Whenever we expanded, we did it through profit, all that sort of jazz. And that's cool and everything. But then equally a little bitter because it's been a big part of your life for 16 years. And to know that you've, by the time we had kind of closed the doors or given the doors to somebody else, we ultimately had thousands and thousands of employees over that time, right? So it was cool, but bittersweet, but also more sweet than anything because also we survived the pandemic when a lot of people in that industry did not survive the pandemic. So to come out on the other side after that and still be acquirable was kind of cool. That was kind of cool.
How hard was it to sell a business like that? Like scale of 1 to 10, how painful was it to get to that point?
I mean, I knew a lot of people in the industry and I knew that we had some good IP. We had built all our own internal predictive dialers and all that kind of stuff software-wise over the years. So we had a lot on the table to offer. To be honest, it was just a couple of calls.
Dude, relationships, man.
The guy ended up taking it over. I'd known him for over a decade, right? So, and he was a competitor. And we used to go hang out and have lunch. So, just goes to show you. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
So that's been going good. And then obviously we got Virtual Staff Finder, which I know we've talked about on the show on numerous occasions.
A lot of clients who are listening likely or clients from past.
A lot of clients. Yeah, we've had, I think we're coming up on almost 8,500 VAs have been hired through that service now since 2010.
Dang.
So that's going from strength to strength. And then, Upreneur, which we've also talked about. It's crazy to think. I don't know whether your audience knows this or not. My audience definitely knows this fact, but I don't think yours does. We may or may not have discussed it, but Upreneur, the term, the brand that everybody knows as upreneur.com, was given birth to in Pat's home office. And I mean, Pat was the gynecologist. He was the one that gave birth to the baby.
We did come up with that together here, right where I'm sitting right now. And it's been
quite literally.
How many years has that been?
Well, that's what I was about to say. It is coming up next year. It will be 10 years of Upreneur. It's celebrating this 10th anniversary.
Man, we're old. We're old. And we're going to talk about that today. Not how old we are and the old man problems and back problems and pains we have, but rather like what are we doing as people of our age to plan for the future and to, unlock the next phase of our life and enjoy it. And I know that there's a lot of new things that you've now started to do, both in business and in hobbies and in life. So we'll get to that. But so Upreneur, I know perhaps the last time we chatted, the event was a thing, the summit. And I had the pleasure and honor of keynoting that. One of the years you continued to have amazing guests come on your stage. And it was a just highly, highly regarded event. And then the pandemic hit.
Oh, dude.
Tell me about what the pandemic did to that event.
Killed it. 2 words, simple. Killed it. Anybody who runs any kind of business events on a consistent basis, I'm not talking about one-off, I'm hosting a little mastermind at a hotel boardroom kind of thing. I'm talking about building a brand, building an asset around that brand and putting on an event on an annual basis, right? And, genuinely putting real time, energy, effort, blood, sweat, tears, and money, quite frankly, into building that as an asset. Anybody that does that knows the amount of energy that goes into it, both mentally, physically, emotionally, maybe even spiritually, if I may say so, to a certain degree as well. But here's the thing. If you're an attendee to that kind of event, you don't know what goes on behind the curtain. You just see everything that happens and that's cool and everything. But understand, with every passing year that you hold an event like that, you build up more and more and more brand awareness and momentum. And so 3 years in a row, we sold out Queen Elizabeth Centre, right opposite Westminster Abbey in the heart of London. 360 guests from 40 plus countries every year from around the world. We sold that event out 3 years in a row, 17, 18, and 19. Amazing momentum. Unlike a lot of people in the industry, they struggle to sell tickets to live event. It actually became easier to sell tickets to that event year on year because of the momentum that we built up. And that was another reason why we continue to get amazing speakers fly in from, quite frankly, every corner of the globe for free as well, just because of relationships and to come and speak on stage. So that when pandemic happened, the level of uncertainty around that event was so high that nobody really knew, including myself. Nobody knew what it was going to do to the event as a thing at all. So March 2020 comes around and we're like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Like, what's going to happen? Nobody knew, right? We didn't know how long, it was going to be over in 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever it was. And so for us, our event always happens in November. So initially, when everything hit the fan, we were like, well, hey, we're just going to carry on.
We'll wait it out
as normal. We're going to carry on selling the event, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And then by the summer, we kind of all knew that it was pretty darn serious. And then the event venue came to us and said, like, are you still planning on? And when the event venue starts asking those kind of questions, you have to start really asking some pretty hard questions of yourself. So we decided to postpone it to 2021. There's a very big business lesson coming up here. So we decided to postpone it to 2021. We had really good relationships with the conference center, and they let us just roll that baby over. We didn't lose any money or anything like that. So that was great. So 2021 comes along. We historically would start selling tickets around April time for an event in November. Long story short, I wasn't comfortable in April of 2021. I didn't feel good at all about how the UK was handling that, how things were being handled outside of the UK. And my biggest fear was, if we put this thing on and we go forward with everything and there are no more rollovers from a venue perspective or AV companies or hospitality companies, let alone ad spend and all the rest of it, we are going to lose hundreds of thousands of pounds here. And we can't afford to do that as a business. So I did, and here's the business lesson, what I teach all of my coaching clients to do, and that is I validated the idea. I validated, will it fly, right? I validated it. So I sent an email out to everybody who had been to the event before and everybody that was on the wait list for the event. All in all, it was about 1,200 people. And I said, okay, so things are still a little uncertain, but we really want to run this event in November. We want to know that you want us to do it as well and that you will come. If that is the case, reply to this email with the word London, and I'll see you there in November. Out of 1,200 or so names, we had about 300 people reply back saying London. And I was like, this is awesome. People still want the event. This is great. We've been missing a year, but they haven't forgotten us. This is great. The wait list still has done its job. We're going to do the event. And then I let the weekend go by and let things marinate a little bit. And I thought, I got to go one step further with the validation, because it's one thing to step into the nightclub, but it's a whole different ballgame entirely to get on the dance floor, right? So I emailed those 300 odd people back and I said, I'm pumped that you want to come to London. Thank you for getting back to me. In this email, there is a link. We need you to pay a 50% deposit on your ticket. And you've got 72 hours to do it. If we get enough people to do it, then we'll go ahead and we'll move forward with putting the event on. If we don't, then we'll give everybody their deposit back and we'll call it a day. Have a guess out of 320 odd people, how many people actually spent money, actually invested for the deposit? Have a quick guess.
10%.
We had about 26 people,
yeah,
something like that. So yeah, just under 10%.
That's so smart, dude. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I talk about in Will It Fly, because you don't really know until you have to have people, vote with their dollars.
Do you have skin in the game is the big question, because I sure as hell had skin in the game. I knew I was going to have skin in the game. I had speakers I needed to corral together. I needed, to put down extra deposits on AVs and F&B and all the rest of it as an event organizer, let alone actually market and promote the event to sell the tickets. I had a lot of skin in the game. These guys couldn't even put £200 in the game, or 250 odd bucks US in the game. Well, if you're not in, I'm not in, and I'm out. I realized that right there was the end of that event. We stuck it up on the shelf. It's there right now, gathering dust, and it won't be brought back down. That ship has very much sailed. So it's a shame, but it is what it is. But yeah.
We know some friends of ours who've also been hit really hard with the pandemic. They had event companies. We spoke with a couple of them recently, actually, and some haven't been able to recover. But what was your pivot after that? I know the event was going to be very much the center of the business. It was doing very well. It was profitable at the time. How do you pivot from something like that when you know that after validation that this is probably not what we're going to do? Where do you shift your focus then from there?
Well, there was a couple of things. So the business model of the event was that we would work hard to get the right people to the event. And by the way, the event was not the cheapest event on the event roster, period, in the industry, not just in the UK. It was quite an expensive event in that regards, anything between £350 for super early bird right up to like $650 if you bought the ticket a week before the event. Whereas, particularly here in the UK, there are a lot of events here within the online kind of entrepreneurship space where it's like, hey, get your ticket to 3-day event for £49 or £29 or £99. But those events are just pitch fests, right? You'll have all these people come up on stage and it's like 15 minutes of content, 45 minutes of a pitch, 6 times a day. So we never wanted to do that kind of event. We got true industry leaders on stage to speak. We charged a good rate. Because of that, we had a very, very high turn-up rate. We had hardly any people not show at all, which is pretty, usually you're looking at about a 5% no-show rate on live events. And the business model was we would make one offer on the second day of the event, 2-day event. And that offer was for the Youpreneur Incubator, which was our 12-month incubator program where we would teach you how to ultimately build a business based around your expertise and your passion, the people you want to serve, and go to, from 0 to 6 figures. You'd learn everything you need in a year, and maybe it might take another 6 months to get that 6-figure business out. And that worked really, really well. We didn't pitch it on the first year, but the second and third year we did, and it always went very, very well indeed. And then when we would have another kind of mini launch, internal launch to our email list and our social followers and things like that, no affiliates or anything. And we would do that around kind of like June, July each year as well. And that was the business model pre-pandemic. When the event was shelved, we just assumed, hey, you know what? We'll just pivot like everybody else. We'll go pure online. And we did. And it worked brilliantly until it stopped working brilliantly, which was around the middle of last year. And so I think it was just one of those situations where it was a little bit of a churn and burn moment, where we had kind of talked about the same things so much, like so many people do with their annual launches and things like that. But because of the very nature of that business model, we needed to pitch it twice a year because we were no longer getting 350 odd people in a room live, where the excitement and the fever for entrepreneurship is so much higher.
Yeah.
We were converting a third of the room every year.
Which is nuts. Those numbers are crazy. And you have the right people in the room who also have already put skin in the game, who are invested into their future. That's the perfect
Precisely
crowd to sell to. So was it just you were pitching the same thing again and again and just your list got tired, or?
Yeah, because we had to go twice a year virtually instead of once a year in person. We had to do 2 of these launches each year. And so they were hearing the same message, the same promises, same solutions, et cetera, same price points, even the same price hike, when you get in before this date and you get these bonuses, the same thing. And it worked really well for 2.5 years. But after that, it fell off a cliff, bro. You and I have talked about this privately. Like, it fell off a cliff. We went from averaging 130, 150 students a year to, the beginning of 2023, we did a launch. We had like 20 people sign up. And I was like, holy moly, we've reached the end of the line with this product. So as we stand right now, and hey, we're keeping it real for people, right? Because I think it's important for folks to know that just because you've been running a business and an asset under a group of businesses for 10 years, it doesn't mean it's all going to be rosy all the time, because it sure heck isn't. That's entrepreneurship. As we sit right now, Youpreneur is gearing up for what I call 3.0. So if 1.0 was 2015 and it was a membership community, 2.0 was 2018 and the Youpreneur Incubator coaching program, 3.0 is coming in January next year. We know what it's going to be. We're now working on getting it ready to be what it's going to become in its next kind of era. And yes, we will continue to help the same type of people with the same type of problems, but it'll be in a very, very different way, a very unique way, a way that I feel I haven't personally seen online before. And I think that's going to be hopefully what sets us apart from the crowd.
Running a business means legal questions are inevitable. Is this contract or agreement solid? What can I do if a client won't pay me? Am I set up properly for taxes? Well, rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own or searching endlessly online, imagine having a law firm on your side without the high hourly rates. That's exactly what Legal Shield's small business plans offer. With Legal Shield, entrepreneurs get access to real legal support, contract reviews, collection letters, guidance on business formation, and even help handling IRS audits. Members can book consultations, upload documents through the app, and work with a provider law firm that understands small business laws in your state. You also get proactive help on tax and trademark questions so you can stay ahead of legal risks. And if a client delays payment, Legal Shield can send professional collection letters to help you recover what you're owed, all for a fraction of what traditional attorneys charge. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at Framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's Framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Every once in a while, as an entrepreneur, we do have to make major shifts. And recently, SPI has done the same thing. I mean, between the pandemic and our online course sales and repeated pitches, very similar to an experience that you had, and the less customers coming in because they've heard it already, we made a shift in 2021 to community and really focusing around that. And that was a big, huge sort of turning of the lever and into the next phase of SPI. And we're also in the middle of some bigger changes, and the audience knows already a little bit. And I've talked to you about this. We have Caleb coming on as CEO to mix things up. We need to mix things up and bring fresh eyes and, create something that's going to bring a new sort of energy. And Matt's moving up into something else. He's still with us and I'm still here. But these radical changes have to happen every once in a while. If they happen all the time, then it's just chaos. But if you stay stagnant for too long in the online business space and you don't innovate and you don't change, things eventually start to feel old or stagnant. And I think it was Einstein, right, who said, if you just are expecting different results, but you're doing the same things, you're going to go insane. And so I think this is a great thing. And so tell me what's going through your head as you go into Youpreneur 3.0. It's new, it's different, it's risky, it's a bet, but it's a bet I'm sure that you are excited and willing to take because what was working.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited about it, but I'm also cautious about it as well. Not scared, just cautious. I've been an entrepreneur for actually 21 years now. And so I know when to go fast and I know when to go slow. And we're going to go slow. We're going to go slow with it out of the gate in every sense of the word. with staff, with costs, with offers, promotion, everything. We're going to go slow out of the gate with it because there's been a lot of changes in the online business world over the last 4 or 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that used to work no longer work. I mean, dude, remember when, do you remember when we could write a blog post, like a really good, like 2,500 word blog post, put an affiliate link at the end and make like 50 grand?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Those were the days.
That was good times, wasn't it?
Oh my
Like I
gosh,
said,
my hosting
things-
revenue was just so high
Dude.
at one point. Things like that.
Bluehost. What was the other one? There was 2 big ones you used to do, Bluehost, and what was the other one?
Market Samurai.
Market Samurai,
Remember that?
yes.
And then Longtail Pro. These were keyword research tools back when niche websites and stuff were.
Yeah. But Bluehost was the big one. And I'm sure your audience will get a giggle out of the story I'll tell, where Pat and I used to be hanging out with each other and his phone would get a PayPal notification or something. And I'd be like, what's that? And he would say, oh, that's lunch on Bluehost kind of thing. And I used to love those moments of those little, and the same thing, we would get notifications pop up for certain things and we'd be like, oh my God, that's so good, But things change. That's life. Things evolve. It is what it is. And the other reason why I'm going slowly with 3.0 with Youpreneur is actually I'm going slowly, period, with everything in my entrepreneurial life as well as my personal life now moving forward. And that's where the concept of the long haul leader came about. And that was something I was sitting on for about a year before I had a proper conversation about it with anybody, quite frankly. That led to a book deal with Hachette Publishers in New York, which the book comes out around end of summer, early fall next year. And that's why I'm putting on the Long Haul Leader Summit in November. So by the time we record and this goes live, it's happening literally like the same week this goes live. So everything is about going slower for a longer period of time, enjoying the journey, understanding that, yes, you've got to be adaptable. Yes, you've got to stay grounded, but ultimately you've got to be very healthy while you do it. And you've got to do everything. Everything I do moving forward is with legacy in mind now, but business and personal. And so, these are the concepts of that long haul leadership kind of framework.
The Long Haul Leader, that's the name of the book, coming out summer 2025, hopefully. And my book's coming out around the same time too, which is great. So we can sort of support each other.
Wouldn't it be cool if they come out at the same time and we do like a joint book launch party?
Get 2 for 1.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Buy one, get one free.
Love it. Both of our books have a lot of L's. Long Haul Leader and Lean Learning. That's interesting.
Yeah.
We had the pleasure of going to Nashville recently, and I have to thank you for the invite to go, because being in that room with all those authors in Nashville and Donald Miller's estate was incredible. We'll get into that and talk about what that's like and how important that was. But I do want to talk about the Long Haul Leader. What are some of the principles of a long haul leader? You had mentioned health and obviously taking things a little bit slower. I think that's much needed now. We've been forever in hustle culture and, sacrificing our own health and sleep and, just eating fast food so we can do more work. And I think people are now starting to feel the consequences of that kind of behavior. And it's still important to have seasons of hustle, I think. But tell me a little bit more about the Long Haul Leader, the goals behind it, and some of the principles, if you can reveal some of that before the book comes out.
Yeah. So obviously, and when the book comes out, I'll come back on, we'll go deep on it. But this all came about because, and it was absolutely no lack of coincidence here at all, while I was dealing with all of that Youpreneur Summit nightmare during 2021, I started to feel very tired a lot, like to the point where I'd get up full of beans, no problem. But by 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the morning, I was toast. I was done. All the energy I had for the workday, quote unquote, had disappeared within the first few hours. I was like, man, what's going on? So I went to my doctor and we ran some blood tests, and all those tests came back pretty much okay. But my blood sugar was slightly spiked. And I was like, okay, I've never had that before. What's that all about? And then I realized actually I was starting to go for those sugary snacks a little bit more than I used to. So I hired a naturopathic doctor to work with them on my diet initially. I went to them, I said to them, feeling tired all the time, getting a certain amount of brain fog. I had some blood work done with my doctor and everything's cool. Cholesterol's fine. Everything's great. But my blood sugar levels are quite high. And on retrospect, it's probably because I know I've been reaching for the cookies, man. I've been reaching for the sugary snacks to try and kind of get a little extra energy and things like that. And she said to me, and by the way, I'm still working with her now. That's how important she's become in my life. She said to me, interesting. Okay, let's run a couple of extra tests. And one of the tests that we ran was a cortisol test. Now, not a lot of people know, but cortisol is a chemical that our body produces very naturally. And it's our fight or flight hormone or chemistry or whatever label you want to give it. So when we're stressed, our body instantly goes into overdrive and pumps out more cortisol, which come from our adrenal glands. And if we're super stressed for a prolonged period of time, your adrenals will stop that fight or flight mode and they'll just deplete and they won't produce enough cortisol, period. Now, family doctors, general practitioners, et cetera, they don't see adrenal failure as a genuine medical problem because you can still, quote unquote, exist with failed adrenal glands. But ultimately, you're not going to be living the best version of your life if you're always tired, if you're already fatigued, you've got brain fog, if you're relying too much on caffeine. And, the real kind of kicker here is that caffeine also strangles your adrenal glands as well, right? So you drink more coffee because you feel tired, which you don't realize at the time is actually making things a lot worse. So long story short, we ended up running a whole bunch of extra tests and looking at all this stuff. And ultimately, I was in phase 3 adrenal failure, which is about as close to burnout as you can get. And then I realized, retrospectively, you look back and think, oh yeah, this all started even a couple of years before when we were moving, from the Philippines back to the UK in late 2018. Then I've got a 1-year-old daughter, so I'm not sleeping properly. Then I'm renovating the home and et cetera, all piles up. And ultimately, I was putting myself into this deficit of cortisol production. Cortisol should be very, very high when you wake up in the morning and naturally decreases over the course of the day so that when it's nighttime, you don't have a lot of cortisol in your system, aka energy really, and you start producing melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, right? But my cortisol levels were flatlined 24/7. So I was waking up exhausted chemically. And so that's when I started working with this doctor. And all these things led me to look at everything. It wasn't just about stress. It wasn't just about diet. It wasn't just about sleep. It wasn't just about exercise or anything like that. It was all of these things combined that had led me to this state of burnout. And so I went about slowly but surely ticking all these boxes, trying to fix everything. Sleep became my number one most important priority, even to the point where I would get selfish about it. So if my wife wanted to read her Kindle in bed in the evening, which she does almost every evening, by 10 p.m., I would say to her, lights out, turn the thing off. If you want to carry on reading, go downstairs because you ain't doing it in this bedroom. Like it got really serious. And so I went from doing 5.5, 6 hours a night to like 7.5, 8 hours a night pretty regularly now. Every now and then I'll have an off night, but generally it's much, much better. Then the supplementation comes into play. Then the exercise has to change. I haven't lifted a weight for 2 years. Not allowed to do any resistance training because it puts too much pressure on my adrenals. I can do a certain amount of yoga, which is kind of body work, body resistance and stuff like that. But other than yoga, other than walking, no real massive amounts of exercise or anything like that. But I do enough to obviously stay fit and healthy. But all of this leads me to the concept of if my health isn't right as a leader, I can't lead. Plain and simple. I can't lead my business and I can't lead my family. And they're the two most important things in my life, right? So slowly but surely, we had to start making changes as well to the work schedule and to what we were doing and who we were doing it with and who was doing what for clients. And all these other little changes came into play. I'm now at the point where I believe I'm getting closer and closer and closer to being hopefully the poster child for long haul leadership to a certain degree. I mean, I'm writing a book on it, right? So I should be, but my kind of concept of what a long haul leader is and I'm still playing with these words a little bit, but ultimately a long haul leader is a visionary and a purposeful entrepreneur who strategically focuses on long-term growth, having meaningful impact, and creating a lasting legacy. And that's the definition that I put together at this point. But we also break it down, when you look at the acronym of long and haul, we break it down into 8 individual aspects as well. And that builds up the framework, really.
Nice.
Wow, that was a long answer. Sorry.
It was a long haul answer right there. We'll obviously dive deeper into that when the book comes out, and love to help promote it and share it. And I think it's so important, especially with my age and where I'm at now. And I'm, you've got a few years on me, so I'm I look up to you, and I look to you for what might be coming next in my life and how to handle it. And, to see what you've gone through health-wise has been very hard, and to use your own example as a way to share with others what to avoid or what not to do. I mean, this isn't a health book per se, even though health is a big part of it.
No, it's definitely not. No. This is not a health book, or, I'm not a biohacker or anything like that. I'm a father and a husband that wants to be around for his family for as absolutely long as I possibly can be, first and foremost. Secondly, I'm a business owner and an entrepreneur that absolutely loves serving people that have common ground, and that I know after 20 plus years of entrepreneurship, I can help them go from where they are to where they want to be. And there's always something, there's always a catalyst to get from where you are to where you want to be. Something has to happen in the middle. It doesn't happen by just rolling up your sleeves. There's got to be a catalyst. And my mission, my goal is to try and be the catalyst for those folks, to get them from where they are to where they want to be. And so, yeah, I mean, it's by all means, it's a work in progress still, I think, to a certain degree. And as I start, the book is written and it is submitted and has been accepted by the publisher, which is great. But as I go between now and when the book comes out and I start doing a lot of speaking on it and things like that, chances are obviously that, things will come out and I'll have to talk about those as well. But ultimately, I'm pretty set on it.
Yeah. Love it, man. To finish up.
What I love about you, I just want to say something very quickly. You are right. I do have a few years on you, 9 to be precise, which you often remind me of, which is very nice of you. Thank you. But Pat is one of the most, probably actually, let me rephrase that. Pat is the most competitive dude I've had in my life ever. I'm 51. No one has been more competitive in my life than Pat Flynn. And we're talking everything from arcade basketball hoops to water balloon fights in the backyard to then meeting up in Nashville, hanging out, him seeing my Whoop on my wrist for the first time and saying, what's all that about? Me explaining what it is, how it's working, how it's helping me. So then going out and buying a Whoop for himself. And now we've got a little group inside of our Whoop app where we're looking at each other's scores. And I love the way that you gamify life. And you come to it with a joyful vision, I think, right? If you can have fun doing all these things, then that's just a bonus, right? Yeah, you're a competitive dude.
Thank you, man. And I am very competitive, but I try to use it for good, right? Because you could be competitive and cocky. And, for you, I'm very cocky because we're best friends. But I also am very competitive with myself. I want to be better every day and improve on who I am and the example I can be for others in my family and other families out there too. So I have a lot of fun with it. That's what drives me. And I think it's important to know what drives you, the listener. You might not be somebody who's so motivated by numbers and things like that, like I am with things.
Well, the numbers never lie. The numbers never lie.
The numbers never lie. I did beat you in basketball.
You did beat me in basketball. You did. But I mean, the numbers don't lie. And I think that's something important. Like if you are an analytic dude and you do kind of geek out a little bit on this stuff, then it's something I think you should lean into as well, right? Whereas, one thing that I've gotten back into a lot over the last 5 years or so are the pastimes and the hobbies in my life where, there's 2, it's bonsai and it's watercolors. And when I speak to artists, I go to artist fairs and things like that to kind of learn from other artists and find out, the best techniques and how to mount things and all this sort of stuff. And I talk to artists, you know what? They're not motivated by numbers at all. They're motivated by the creativeness that they're, bringing into the world through their work. They're not motivated by numbers at all. But then I'm an entrepreneur. I step away from the art table and the paint palette, and I look at my websites and I look inside of my Thrive cart and my PayPal accounts, and now I'm a numbers guy again. So I think it's important to understand that you can build an incredibly profitable business with balance and not burnout if you set out to do exactly that. If all you're focused on is chasing down the dollar each and every single day, yeah, you'll probably get the dollar. You'll catch it. But what else are you going to get? Because you haven't been balanced. And I think that's something that a lot of people are now starting to realize and talk about.
This idea of being purposeful, being conscious about the work that you're doing versus we've all been in sort of automatic mode for so long. And that can drive us to insanity and burnout for sure. But before we finish up here, Chris, we had just recently gone together to Nashville to just be in this room with, dozens of other incredible authors. It's a Nashville author meetup that happens, and it's run by Donald Miller and Mike Michalowicz, and so many amazing authors, and some of my, people that I look up to were there. And I'd love to, as I answer first, ask you, what was the biggest takeaway that you had from that 2.5 days that we had in Nashville? For me, I think it was, all those big names were in the room, Michael Hyatt, Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher, and several others. Yet there were a few people who I'd never seen or even met before, never even heard of. And there was one in particular, his name was Joseph Nguyen, who had written a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And his name had never come across my desk yet.
Me too.
But he gave a presentation on his work with his book, self-published, selling 1 million copies or hundreds of thousands of copies, mainly through TikTok. And it just showed me again that it's so important to put yourself in rooms where you don't know everything, where you're not the smartest in the room. And to be invited to that, and again, to have you to thank for that, was so eye-opening. And it just was a nice reminder that, you kind of, in the beginning, I was like, oh, who is this guy? Like, I've never heard his name before, yet he's doing some amazing things that some of the people that I look up to, were starting to look up to him. And I don't know what that says about me and maybe the approach or judgments that I had or anything, but I am a big fan of Joseph Nguyen now and his book and his methods. And I'm definitely exploring TikTok, for example, as a result of a lot of the learnings from him. And he's a young guy, very well spoken. We played Frisbee golf together on Donald Miller's estate, and I learned a lot from him. So that was a big takeaway for me, is just try to find even more incredible people who might not necessarily be well known, but have so much to offer, and build relationships with them and help them out too.
Yeah, that's great takeaways. The thing for me was that I had not seen pretty much everybody in that room, bar maybe you, who I'd seen in early 2020 for the last time prior to the pandemic. I'd not seen people in that room Mike Michalowicz, sorry, I saw last year when he was in England. But other than you two guys, I hadn't actually seen anybody in that room for probably about 6 years or so in person. And seeing everybody collated together like that in that kind of environment, knowing full well, I mean, I knew about 80% of that room personally. The other 20%, the Josephs, the Joeys, the other guys in there, I had never met before. I'd never heard of before. And I went out of my way to start building relationships with those guys, because you're only in person with each other for a couple of days every now and then, right? But also, the really, really big thing for me was that good people know good people. And every single person in that room understands one very, very defining quality as an entrepreneur, which I have lived by for 2 decades after a very successful entrepreneur in the corporate gifts world gave me this over a dinner table, a piece of advice. He said to me, if you're going to start a business, there's one thing you've got to understand. Don't believe your own hype, because you ain't as good as you think you are. And secondly, most importantly, nobody has a monopoly on good ideas. And that last sentence has stuck with me. And I've mentioned it so many times, right? And it was clear when you're sitting there and you've got Hal Elrod and Todd Herman and Donald Miller and Jeff Walker and Amy Porterfield and all these other absolute legends in our world, all sitting around tables, talking with each other, with notebooks, hanging out, just having fun with each other and all the rest of it, you realize actually every single one, every person knows that they're not that good, where they don't need to learn anything from anyone else. And they also appreciate that nobody's got a monopoly on good ideas, including themselves. I had one conversation actually with Jenna Kutcher, and that was the first time I'd ever met Jenna.
Jenna's great.
And she left a lasting impression on me. And we were talking about Youpreneur 3.0, which I got a few people's input on. And she said to me, she asked me a question. She said, when you're doing all of this and you're setting this all up, Chris, what would it look like if it was fun? And I was like, what? She said, what would all this look like if it was really fun to do? Do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy smokes, that's good. And it reminds me a little bit of my past, who passed away, Dan Miller, my buddy and my mentor, passed away at the beginning of this year. He always used to ask the question, what would this make possible? What would this make possible? And so these little one-liners, man, nobody's got a monopoly on good ideas. That was very clearly fermented over those couple of days in Nashville. And it was hot. Wasn't it hot, bro?
It was so hot.
Hey, did you beat Joseph at Frisbee? I need to know this.
No, he was actually really good.
So not only was he a sleeper on the author front, but he was also a bit of a ringer.
Yeah, Marcus Sheridan was the one who pulled out a bag with his different discs because he actually plays professionally or something. And we were just like,
He brought his own discs with him to Nashville.
Bro, this has been incredible. What a way to catch up and have you back on. The Long Haul Leader, look out for that. We'll talk more about that come next year. But just want to wish you all the best of luck on Youpreneur 3.0. And thank you for being open, honest, and vulnerable here for us. If there was one place you wanted people to go to check out right now, where would you want them to go?
Just go to chrisducker.com. Follow me on Instagram at Chris Ducker. Send me a message. Let me know you listened to the episode. Say SPI. I know where you came from. And if there's anything I can do to help, I will do that.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Chris Ducker. You can find Chris at chrisducker.com or Youpreneur, and he has Youpreneur 3.0 coming out. He has his book coming out. I have my book coming out. I'm just so stoked to continue to have this incredible relationship with him and learn from him, because I do joke around that he's a little older than me and whatnot, but I do and have picked up a ton of wisdom from him over the years, and I wouldn't be who I am today without him. So, Chris, I know you're listening to this. I appreciate you, my man. I love you. I'm here for you, and I want to support you. So thank you for listening through. I appreciate it. If you want to get the show notes and the resources and links mentioned in this episode, head on over to smartpassiveincome.com/session837. Again, smartpassiveincome.com/session837. And with Thanksgiving coming up, definitely I have a lot to be thankful for. This podcast, you, the listener, people like Chris who are in my life, and family, obviously. So I'm looking forward to hopefully a nice end of year trip with the family. I hope you are coming into the end of the year with some excitement and some boldness, perhaps, in some of the choices that you're going to be making to help you grow your business. And we want to help you with that. So come join the community. Come find us at smartpassiveincome.com/community so that you're not going to be able to do this alone. You're going to do it with other people like you and a team of people who are here to support you. That's why we're here. smartpassiveincome.com/community. We'll see you soon, and thank you again. Thank you so much for listening to the Smart Passive Income podcast at smartpassiveincome.com. I'm your host, Pat Flynn. Sound editing by Duncan Brown. The Smart Passive Income podcast is a production of SPI Media and a proud member of the Entrepreneur Podcast Network. Catch you next week. Hey, fellow podcaster, does this sound like something you've experienced? You record your podcast episode on one platform, download the files, edit in another app, then fire up a different tool just to create these social clips? Well, it can be clunky, time-consuming, and frankly overwhelming, especially for creators trying to grow. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about Riverside. Riverside is the all-in-one platform. Record, edit, and repurpose your podcast content all in one place. You just log in, record with your guests no matter where you are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video. We use Riverside here at SPI as well now. With built-in AI, I can automatically clean up my audio, saving myself so much editing time, and it can even auto-generate clips to make promoting the show a breeze. And with Magic Clips, I can grab the best moments and repurpose them as short-form video, perfect for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram, without re-recording a thing. So if you're tired of juggling tools and want a faster, simpler way to create and scale your content, it's time to try Riverside, built by creators for creators. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART. Look, I get it. You want to grow your business, but trying to sell to hundreds or even thousands of people gets very exhausting very fast. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? Score App helps you sell to more people without adding more to your plate. You build a quiz or assessment that your audience actually wants to take. Then they answer a few quick questions and get a personalized result right away. It shows them where they're at and what they need to do next and how you can help. And you build huge amounts of trust before you make even a single offer. No hard sell, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. All you have to do is just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI.